Hi everyone, welcome to our next lesson in JavaScript. Now, in this lesson, we're going to be learning about objects. So basically, it's a build up for the object-oriented programming, which is going to be the next lesson. So in object-oriented programming, we're going to be dealing with objects, and we kind of want to know what objects are and how they work and all that kind of stuff. And that's what we're going to be doing in this episode. All right, so welcome everyone. So what I've done is, let me just make this window a little bit smaller right there. I just added our 09 objects that we created in our JavaScript file. We just created a new, in our folder, 09 objects.js. All right, and then we obviously linked it there. And we open it right there, and we open this with live server. So we got our Firefox open right here as well. So all is good. Okay, so I made the window a little bit bigger. So let's just see. Let me just close that now, so we don't need that. And just to make sure everything is working, and we're going to just type in working. Right, as you can see in the command console right here, you can see working. So everything is good. Right, so the next part is what we want to know. So what is object-oriented programming? What is it? It is basically a programming paradigm that relies on the concept of classes and objects, where you structure your code in a simple and reusable way, okay, known as classes, and the objects become basically an instance of the class. All right, but we're not going to get to delve into that part of the object-oriented programming yet. We're just going to deal with the basics of an object. All right, so how do we create an object? All right, as you remember the previous episodes where we had the different data types. All right, we created an object there, but we're going to redefine it so that people that are new, so that they can see it. Let me just make this a little bit bigger for you guys. All right, so we define and we declare a variable called person. All right, and person is going to be equal to the set of open and closing curly braces. Now, you might wonder, now you see, now the person is basically an empty object right there. Now, inside the open and closing brackets, we can actually declare a name. All right, but in our case, let's just do first name. First name, and we're going to equal that to a string called John. All right, so now, nope, like this, with a comma. So, what is an object? An object is basically a collection, like we have here, opening, closing. And inside this is basically a collection of relating data or a functionality which usually consists of several variables and functions, okay, which are called properties and methods. When they are, let me just show you. So this is a property. And let's create a method inside here. Let's call it greeting. Greeting equal to a function. Open and closing. We're just going to console.log hello. All right. So this is a property. Just that mustn't be closed like this. This is fine. Okay. So remember, it's separated by commas. So you got your property right there, and we got our method right here. Okay. So this is basically our object, and which is a collection of data and or functionality, which is usually consists of several variables and a function, which is this right here, which are called property and methods. So now we created our first object. Let me just call it like this. Our first object. Yippee. Okay. So now we created our first object, right? We got our person object. It's got properties and methods inside it. Okay. Now the first, this one right here, first name, right? This is referred to as the object property. Okay. And the greeting is referred to as the method, right? So I just want to kind of, so that you guys can remember property and method. This will come in handy a bit later, but I just kind of want you guys to just remember that. Now this whole thing right here with the properties and methods inside it, this is actually referred to as object literal. All right, this is referred to as an object literal. So if anybody says object literal, just think of this right here. So we obviously can have more properties like last name, and we can have John like Doe. All right, so we can obviously have that as well. And we can actually have even multiple methods inside our object literal. Okay. Now the thing is, you might wonder, how do we access properties or methods inside our object? All right. How do we do that? Now I'm just going to do like this, console.log. I'm just going to do person.firstName. As you can see, my IDE, let me just show you. So if I go on person and I go to first name, you will see it actually shows me that there's a property right there. Right. So what happens if I do that? You will see it give us the value of John. So if I do this last name, it's supposed to return. Don't do it. Let me save it. As you can see, it returns the value of Doe right there. Okay, so we use the dot notation. Let me just do it like here. The dot notation to access the properties or methods inside our object right there. Now, what do we do if we call in a method? Best thing we do is we just go to greeting like this. As you can see, it returns the value. Let me just refresh this. It returns the value of hello right there. Now it could have been something else. We could have said return hello like this. And it will return the same thing, because you remember from the previous, we had the return or the break or the continue. Now the return statement actually just return whatever we want to return. And we can just say like this, hello world. So as you can see, it returns the string hello world right there. Now there's another way that we can access these kind of variables inside our objects, these properties inside our object. Now, how can we do that? We can do that with a bracket notation. So, bracket notation. Right? How do we do that? So, I'm just going to do a console.log, clj, and person. Instead of the dot notation, we're going to use the bracket notation. And then we're just going to create a string, and then we can just say last name right there. Just going to comment the top one out, And if we refresh, you can see it returns us the value of Doe. Okay. So we can either use the dot notation or we can use the bracket notation. But remember, no spaces like this between it or a dot there, just the bracket with the string of the value you want to access right there. Okay, so we can do that with the bracket notation, but I would recommend you to stick to the dot notation, which we're going to use the rest of this episode. Now, you might wonder, okay, so what if I want to assign this to a single object? And what we can do, we can actually have an object inside an object. So we can create an object named name, right? Let me open and close it. And then we can actually move this inside there. So now we have an object inside an object. So we got the person object, and then we got the name object inside the person object right there. I'm just gonna, this is undefined right now, so which is fine because it's no longer the person last name. Let me just, this is the bracket notation. So how can we access this now? So what we can do now is we just do the same thing. We go, let me just write here, object inside object. So how do we access it? We're going to just console.log, and we're going to console our person.name, right? So now we're saying person.the_name, and then dot again for the first name. Now let's see what happens. As you can see, it returns the value of John. We can actually have multiple different types of data. We can have a number inside our object. Let's say age is 28. All right. So we got an age there. So if we go to person.age, it returns the value of 28. Okay. So let's just uncomment this. So we got our John, and we can do another console log for last name, and you can see it returns the value of John and Doe. Let me just comment this out. Right, the next part, this is basically the getting part. Let me just do like this, getting. Now the thing is, what we want to do now is we want to set things inside our object. So I'm just going to delete the age and leave this right there. Okay, so let's just copy this down. Otherwise I have to scroll up and down. Let me just comment that out and actually bring it here. Now we're going to move to the setting value, or basically updating our object. Okay, let me just do it like this. Updating, okay, setting or updating. This part was getting our part of it. Now we're going to set it inside our object. Right, so we pasted our object in there. So how can we do this? Now what I can do now is I can just say person dot first name, person.name dot first name. I'm going to equal that to basically Jane instead of John. So now what happens if we console.log person? All right, let's see what happens. As you can see, it returns that it's an object. Now inside the object, it returns the name and the greeting, which is a method. All right, so let's go to the name part of it. As you can see, it returns the object of the name, which is the first name of John and the last name of Doe. Okay, so basically it updated the John to Jane. All right, and we can actually do the other one with last name as well, and we set it to I don't know. Jane Joseph. All right, Jane Joseph. Right, as you can see, it returns us the new set value. Just the new value of Joseph. You may just remember, case sensitive. All right. So that's how we can update properties. Now, there's another thing that we can do. Instead of just updating, we can actually add something to our object. Now, what we can do, we can say person.age equals to 48. All right. Now, let's console log the person object again. As you can see, it entered the age in there as well. All right. So if I do person dot age, as you can see, it returns the value of 48. All right. So let me comment this out. So like this, because now it'll give us undefined because the person object is not there. Which brings us to our next part. Let me just uncomment this because I'm going to need it. So we can say, hi, my name is, so we remember how to work with template literals. Okay, so hi, my name is, okay, so we got it like this. Now we got name dot first name, so we're going to do name dot first name. Don't mind the strike through right there. Okay, and another open and closing age years old. Right. Now let's see what happens if we console log the greeting. All right. So let's see. Age is not defined. Okay. Let's create an age quickly of 28. Right. So we got our age right there. Supposed to work. But I know why it's not working, because it brings us to our next topic. This keyword, basically, like this keyword. All right. Now, this keyword refers to the current object the code is being written inside. So basically, if we type in here this, all right, this, and on the age, this. Now, basically, this keyword refers to the person object right there. Okay, so this is basically refers to the current object the code is being written inside. So this, okay, so the example that we have here, as you can see, hi, my name is John, because John refers to this object that we have right here, the person object, and I'm 28 years old. As you can see, it actually returns the value for us right there. So let me rephrase this word again. This keyword refers to the current object. So what is our object? The person object. So basically this is equal to person. Okay. Just as an example, okay? So this keyword refers to the current object the code is being written inside. Okay? So you're going to see this keyword actually a lot in your coding career. Okay? So just remember, this is actually referring to the current object where the code is being written in. Right. For me, it was a bit of a struggle in the beginning, but I just want you guys just to kind of get it When I got it, it was just easy, smooth sailing all the way from there. Okay, so this keyword right here is basically just referred to the current object, the person object. All right, thank you guys for being here so long. Thank you for watching the episode, and give it a like if you like it. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down, and positive or negative feedback is always appreciated. And yes, I'll see you guys in the next part where we're going to actually go into object-oriented programming. And yes, looking forward to the Vue.js and the React course. That's why we're doing all of this basic stuff right now. Right, thank you guys, and goodbye.